Yay! And I think I'm going... Excellent. Okay.
Rise the fire.
Okay, yes, you're heading the right way. Yes, please, if you could. That's great. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to sit down, but it seems to be making me stand. I don't know. Audience, are you seeing me sitting down? Oh, good. Well, as long as you are, then I'll... I'm sorry we're a bit late starting. We had a few problems. My voice kept disappearing, and Second Life disappeared for Ebbe.
You had some sort of technical laryngitis?
I did. Okay.
Let me make sure my... Okay, hold on. Alright, so can people hear me?
They say you're a bit quiet. Maybe if you move your mic closer to your mouth.
People hear me better now?
And also remember to get sound from your sound from avatar, not your avatar position, but from your camera. But also, if you use the headphone indicator, you can turn us up individually, which is always cool. Okay, do you want to say something again, Ebbe, so people can hear you?
Alright, 1, 2, 3, checking to see if is voice coming from the right place, the right volume.
Okay, yeah, people can hear us, and chat repeater is on as well. I'm just going to try one final attempt to sit in. No, doesn't want me to sit down in my own view.
Well, yeah, you're
I finally sat down.
You're sitting just fine.
Good. Okay. Right. Hello, Chrysanth. Why don't you go and sit in the audience? There are lots of nice seats there. Yes, please. Okay, well, this is a great hat. I love this hat, but I'm going to take it off so people can see me a bit more clearly. And I'd like to say hello and thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see you all here today, especially Ebbe. Thank you for joining me here for a chat.
Absolutely.
Okay, not so long since we last talked, but I think we've got some new ground to cover, haven't we?
Yeah, and more is better, so...
Okay, well, there's a lot of people here who probably don't know you terribly well. So I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little about yourself and how you came to work at the lab.
Wow, it's a long journey.
born in Sweden, raised in Sweden, ski racer that ended up taking a detour after high school and the Army to go to college in the US in beautiful Middlebury, Vermont. And after that, ended up a little bit by random chance in Seattle, where I, again, by kind of random chance, started working at a company in 1988 called Microsoft. I was there for about 12 years, having produced a bunch of products that you may have used or heard of, called like Microsoft Word and Microsoft Office. And in 2000 moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, where I still live today. I live in Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge. So I drive every weekday across the Golden Gate Bridge to come to Linden Lab today. For about 8 years after I moved down here, I worked for a startup in the city until that sold to AT&T Interactive in 2007, a company called Ingenio, which was a marketplace for people to buy and sell information, but basically what they could say over the phone. So that was an introduction to marketplaces and also a user-to-user business model where users would buy information from other users. And then after that, I went to work for Yahoo, responsible for sort of all consumer products and affairs in EMEA. So I moved to London and Switzerland for about 3 years.
Wow.
And then I championed actually a huge organizational shift to a more centralized product organization. Yahoo was very decentralized, so there was a lot of versions of the same thing around the world, which was not very efficient. And ended up, as part of that process, ultimately moving back to the Bay Area to work at Yahoo Corporate in Sunnyvale to run as the Senior Vice President of products. So Yahoo's homepage, news, sports, finance, movies, all the platforms associated with that, and CMSs that need that content. So that was massive scale, some 800 plus my teams. And then after one too many CEOs sort of revolving through Yahoo and getting a little fed up with sort of that, I left, played golf for 7 months, and then joined a little startup that we tried to make something happen and ultimately said, no, it's not going to work. So we gave a bunch of money back to investors, which they greatly appreciated. And then sort of towards the end of that, Linden Lab asked me to come and talk to them about a role. After some quick back and forth, I accepted the role as the CEO. And but I've actually known Linden Lab and Second Life from way back, almost from the absolute beginning. I've met Philip many times. We're meeting again next week. And as I've said before, my son, who also works here at Linden Lab, actually on the Sansar project, had an extremely successful stint in Second Life when he was quite young. And I was fascinated by the ability he had as a young person to socialize with other people, create a business, create solutions, working on some really fascinating projects, both creating and coordinating and collaborating to create, and getting paid to do that work. So I've always been fascinated by content creation. College, I studied computer science and fine arts, so I love sort of both the technology and the art that goes into creating the kind of content that a lot of people create around here in Second Life. And so this was kind of sort of a perfect combination, I think, of marketplace, fascinating economy, the incredible breadth of ways that people find value in Second Life. It's not just one thing. It's so many different things to so many different. So the variety and the complexity is fascinating. The empowerment of people to be able to create and earn from what they create. So all of these amazing residents that earn a living or supplement their income through what they're doing here. And then just the incredible value it has to people just from friendship, relationships, educators, students, health professionals, patients, like you name it. It's just mind-blowing, fascinating. So it was very easy for me to accept this role. And I'm 4 years in. I'm as happy as when I started, if not happier by how awesome this job is.
I think your enthusiasm for it really shines through, and I would say a love for Second Life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the best virtual world that has ever been made.
Yes.
And which is I mean, it's incredible. 15 years in here, we are still the best virtual world that has ever been made. And also have a tremendous hope and aspirations for continuing that for a long time. So and hearing so many incredible stories continuously is just a constant injection of encouragement and motivation, because it makes such a tremendous has such a tremendous impact for so many people. That's makes it extremely rewarding.
You've made it clear what you find great about Second Life. What have you found the most challenging aspect of being CEO here?
Well, with regards to Second Life, or just being CEO in general, I mean,
we could split it. We could split the two.
I mean, the challenges with Second Life, I think, is it's a complicated product. Not just for us technically to operate, but also for users to use. And some of its power of this complexity allows for this tremendously beautiful variety of experiences and content, but it also is overwhelming for a lot of users. So it's hard to get new users to quickly sort of find that incredible value that so many of you have discovered in Second Life. It takes quite a bit of effort to sort of get return on Second Life. You don't. It's not easy to just pop in and sort of easily have a good time, or find a community, or find a place where you belong and enjoy what you have to work hard to sort of find your place, which is very similar to the physical world, which doesn't come to you. You have to go get it. You have to make it happen. And compared to games, they kind of make you do things. That sort of makes it a little autopilot, Punch the monkey and you get a score, and it just keeps motivating people to get a higher score or something. Whereas in Second Life, it's just kind of like in the physical world. You have to work to find friends. You have to work to find communities or groups that feel you belong to and want to be part of, or to create something, or for other people or for yourself that you're valuable and meaningful. So that is sort of the strength and weakness at the same time. So how to provide that power and yet also make it easy is like a really complicated task. As CEO, well, it's not too difficult because we have incredible people that work here. The Lindens are, to a very large degree, extremely self-motivated. I mean, they're here because they love what they do. And I mean, one challenge obviously is we're trying to build another platform, Sansar, and it's after still quite a bit of effort. It's still early on, and finding product market fit and getting it to sort of solve a meaningful problem for a lot of people is still something we're working on. I think we've now are in a really good place when it comes to compliance. When I first got here, there's sort of were a lot of monetary transactions that didn't necessarily have all the compliance procedures in place, and because people can basically transfer money amongst each other, we had to do a lot of work to make sure that states and banks and government agencies were comfortable with our business model, because it's a very it's an incredibly cool business model. But then when cryptocurrency started sort of come about, like a lot of people started looking at what we were doing, but we've taken care of that now. Now we have money transmitter licenses in basically all but one state, and which will be sorted out soon. So there's been kind of a lot of effort to make sure that we can sort of maintain the business model that we invented here, without getting into sort of legal places we don't want to be in. So that's obviously protecting all of you that are making money in here. So I'm very proud of the work that team has done, and so it's good to have that in a good place now.
I've always thought that compared with things like Bitcoin, the Linden is managed and remarkable and stable.
Say that again?
I've always thought, in comparison with things like Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies that have started up, the Linden is basically stable, and one hates to use the word, but safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something we pay a lot of attention to. I mean, one advantage we have, that the amount of speculation that goes into the Linden Dollar is not as crazy as what affects the price of Bitcoin. I'm fascinated by Bitcoin and the blockchain and what all happens there, but we have some advantages of being sort of a closed ecosystem, but we certainly do pay a lot of attention to the exchange rates and make sure that we don't sell in too many Linden dollars, to make sure that we exchange rate as stable as possible, so that, like you said, people have confidence that the investments they make here are
Absolutely. So I'd like to talk a little about how you've kind of adapted to innovations in Second Life. Your avatar has changed quite a bit. Are you responsible for your avatar look, or do you have help from other Lindens?
I get a lot of help, from Patch's team, and I think Strawberry might have pitched in, and so it's not due to my skills, but I did provide some guidance as to kind of what kind of an avatar I wanted, and I think they pretty much nailed it. So I'm very pleased with what they did, and so I'm very lucky to have people helping me out in this way. I don't know if I could have achieved this by myself. Unfortunately, I would love to, but my time is spread thin, unfortunately, too.
A lot of hard shopping was involved, yeah. Okay, so I was going to ask, where do you see Second Life going? Can you give a brief summary of the SL roadmap, and what are some of the highlights, and how is the progress going?
Well, so it's progressing well. I mean, we definitely early in the year sort of laid out a roadmap or 15 great things we wanted to accomplish, and we're going to get a lot of those things done. It was very ambitious, so maybe a couple of those things won't make it till by the end of the year, but it's looking good. And over the next few weeks, and within a couple of months here, I think you're going to start to see a lot of these things. So I can cover a few of these things. Like we've talked about cost of land, right? And we'll get to that in a little more detail in a minute. But you've seen the lowering the mainland cost and doubling the mainland tier, and that has had an extremely positive reaction from all residents in here. So Patch's team is extremely busy fulfilling orders still, even though it's been quite a while now. That team is like having to shift resources around constantly to sort of juggle what's happening over there, which is great. We continue to also try and find ways to add additional value for pre-orders, and we're very pleased to see that premium subscriptions basically have gone up and to go up, which is very encouraging. We have the environment enhancement, or the E is, I think, getting very close to reveal itself in some test form. I think in a month or two. So that's getting very close. We've done some cool stuff with in-world games. So the Wrath of Ruth, that's been fascinating to see. Sort of a cross the grid experience like that. We're playing and continue to work and iterate on themed learning islands. I've talked about this before, making it possible for us to acquire audiences in a more sort of verticalized sense, instead of just generically come to Second Life. Like, well, there are specific audiences that might be interested in very specific subject matter. Maybe they're very interested in vampires or whatever it might be. And how can we do advertising that's relevant to that audience and have them go through a path of landing pages and registration flow, and then an in-world experience that all speaks to that subject matter, rather than feeling like suddenly what happened? It suddenly, the thing I was in search of suddenly disappeared, or I have to go find somehow. So making that sort of whole process more tight from beginning to end, decision flow. Is stuff we're continuing to iterate. The team is hard at work on last names. It'll take a bit longer. I don't know how soon it will happen, but it's thinking it all through. Auctions are very close, so that I'll buy and sell your land in an effective way. It should be very close to seeing coming to production. We constantly, obviously, working on better performance. Animesh, as of today or yesterday, is starting to come out in test or project viewer, and is making its way, has made its way to the server side. But please, not start. And if you can make it and play with it, don't start selling this content just yet. Please just play with it and give us feedback. It's not yet in sort of full-on ready state, but project viewers are coming out so that people can start to play with it, and so we can test it in the wild. So it's great to see that coming out in grid. And then, Bakes on Mesh is still on track. Further out, but it's around the corner. And then, the big thing, huge effort behind all this is migrating to the cloud. That they're still progressing, and there's so many services running in our data center for various things, databases and services, and we sort of moving pieces of those to the cloud. It'll take way beyond this year to complete that entire project, but it's kind of at least an indicator to sort of test in the long. So lots of stuff going on.
Right, and from the roadmap, I'm sensing the lab is currently preparing to make significant changes to the overall Second Life economy, the balance. Cheaper land, but other revenue streams rising. And actually, I talked to creators at the Home and Garden Expo, and many of them seem to feel that this is a change they're expecting.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I've been saying for quite a while now that I think the balance between what it costs to have land versus what it costs to transact or buy and sell in the economy is a little off kilter. Land is quite expensive, but selling things world is quite cheap, comparatively speaking. So basically, I feel we basically have fairly high real estate taxes, but very low consumption tax. So we're trying to adjust this so that it's better. So that was part of the mainland price reduction.
Right.
And today I can announce that we're going to also lower the price of private estates.
Oh, wow.
So private estates will drop prices by upwards of 15%.
Wow.
And the setup fees will be reduced by as much as 41%. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's a step in our continued effort to sort of rebalance things. And that means a full region that today is retail $295 will be $249, and the setup cost of that today is $600. It's first month. So, and Homestead prices will go from 5 to 109, and with the setup cost being reduced from 225. Open space will also be cheaper, but also will be discontinued June. Then people that have them can having them, but instead of $75, $60. So that's what's happening, and we look forward to seeing what impact this will have as far as demand, and we're really excited about pull that out.
That's fantastic.
And that will all be as of July 2nd.
Right.
So just right around the corner.
You would have to get your open space very quickly.
If you feel you need one, you need to get on the ball here within the next couple of weeks, yes.
Okay. Ebbe, your voice is cutting out in the world, people are saying.
All right.
It's a shame.
I haven't done anything.
Great in Skype. No, and I'm hearing you perfectly in Skype.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Perhaps if you move your mic closer to you.
Yeah, I've shoved it now so that I'm almost eating it.
Okay. Right, sorry about that. Someone has asked if that will still apply for EU citizens. I thought we'd taken that off some time ago.
Sorry?
Someone's asked if that will still apply for EU citizens. I thought that had been taken off. Do we still have that?
So, Pat, you said it will end.
Okay. Okay. Ah, right. Okay.
Okay.
So,
VAT's still a price for private estates, yes.
yeah, but it's been taken off premium accounts, which is something.
Yes.
Okay.
And part of the rebalancing here, and I see that people said they couldn't hear me describing the price reduction in detail, but I believe that Zaola here has actually posted the link to the blog. So there's a blog on our website that talks about the price changes in detail. So I don't have to repeat it. You can go read about it on the blog. The one thing I need to mention, though, is that, yes, we lowered those prices, but as part of this rebalancing, we're also increasing the cost of buying Linden dollars by 50 cents, so going from cents to $1.40 transaction. It's a way for us to sort of still make our money as part of this price reduction. But I think that's a trade to shift our income plan to the transaction side.
Right. Okay. So that is really good news for many people to have lower land costs.
That is.
So we've got the balance on this. Are you also planning the marketplace changes?
The marketplace will continue to get investment to get better, and we've actually very recently hired someone to be added to help us work on that project. So we're going to invest there. We're a little bit behind what we hope to do because of the time it took us to recruit for that a person for the position there. But look for more to come. People are on it.
Right. Will there be any change to grandfathered sim prices? Because a lot of people took advantage of the grandfathering.
No change there.
Okay. And a question from Gentle Heron. Will the 15% reduction apply to non-profits too?
Non-profits. Education non-profit discount full item will be repriced to maintain their 50% discount.
Right.
So that means the new price will go to $124.50.
Right.
So it sort of will maintain its 50% discount. So it'll also be a lower price. So good news there as well.
Yes, good news for the non-profits. Okay. I was going to say, have you been able to see much at the birthday? And have you taken a podcar tour? What have you enjoyed?
I have not yet been able to jump in. Neither Second Life nor Sansar. I have a board call on Tuesday. We have a huge Sansar summit with all people working on Sansar coming here early next week. Huge amount of planning and project management. So I've been hardly in front of my computer at all. Mostly sitting in conference rooms, working with teams and planning. But I will certainly hop in here over the next days and weeks to catch as much of celebration as possible.
Well, hopefully you can make a podcar tour before the end, because they're really good fun.
Yeah, I saw someone. I saw a picture of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw one of the giant avatars. You know, the huge avatars that are about 6 meters high or whatever, riding a podcar. You couldn't really see the podcar because she just kind of overwhelmed it, but it still transported her around, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, that's I mean, the creativity is always completely mind blowing. There's so much. it's just always something fascinating, inspiring, awe-inspiring, or fun, or beautiful, or interesting, or so there's a never-ending stream of just incredible creativity, which makes this place so great.
I love going around SL birthdays because you're continually going things like, you can golf, you can play golf, you can surf.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'm getting some questions in from the audience. Would you mind if I asked you a few of them?
Anything, shoot.
Okay. With the recent Supreme Court ruling on sports betting allowing all 50 states to bet on professional sports, how will this affect, if any effect at all, on the terms of service when it comes to gaming sims? And will the states that vote in sports betting be allowed to enter a gaming sim?
Well, states still have to decide what they want to do, so nothing has really changed just yet in a meaningful way. And we're probably going to wait till there's enough states that have sort of taken a position that is sort of uniform enough that we don't have to do something really unique on a per state basis, because that gets really complicated. So I think there's still a ways to go before some sort of uniform way of treating different forms of betting or gambling or whatever it might be, so that it's worth our time to sort of change the terms and allow creators to sort of participate in those types of activities. I mean, if it's legal, then I want to support it. So I don't have anything against it. If law says it's okay, just want to make sure that it's okay across enough jurisdictions that sort of makes sense, not just benefiting a small subset of Second Life users with an effort to enable. So I think it's still going to be quite a while, but we're obviously paying attention. Our legal team pays attention to what's possible and not possible. So whenever it looks like it's an opportunity, then we'll explore it. But I would say it's still quite a ways before it's something to get excited about.
Okay, I have a whole little list of questions that Joe Yardley has been shooting at me.
Oh no.
First of all, how was Amsterdam?
Oh, Amsterdam was absolutely fantastic. I just came back like 10 days ago from a 3-week vacation that I started in Amsterdam. I have family in Amsterdam. My mother's Dutch, so I spent my summers growing up in Haarlem, which is very close to Amsterdam. So yeah, I flew into Amsterdam, met my wife there, who had spent 3 weeks in London and a week prior. So we met in Amsterdam, spent a day in Haarlem with all my family, my cousins' little kids that I hadn't met yet, and aunt and just relatives, lunch, cousin's place. We then spent the next day spending about 7 hours just cruising the canals with my other cousin's boat and her family, which was fantastic. It's great to see Amsterdam from that perspective. Sunny day. And then Drax came by and interviewed me, so maybe many of you saw the 15-year birthday video where I sat in the window in Amsterdam and then spoke about, he recorded me from my Airbnb apartment in Amsterdam. And yeah, from there on we went to Bilbao, San Sebastian, Madrid, Sotogrande, Malaga, Uppsala in Sweden, and then finished off in Stockholm, where I went to a fascinating conference called Brilliant Minds, where I spoke and showed videos that included both Second Life and Sansar to really fascinating audience of about 400 them back. So awesome vacation.
That sounds like a really cool vacation.
Yeah, incredible places, incredible food, incredible golf, and met my parents in Sweden, my sister. So yeah, it was perfect.
That's wonderful. Joe also wants to know if you've updated your profile yet.
In Second Life?
Apparently.
Well, she wants me to do something with it? I don't know. I have not changed it for a long, long time. I guess she's not pleased with my profile. Okay.
Okay.
I haven't touched that in forever.
Okay, Holger Guruth wants to know if you plan to bring back the very useful Second Life mentors to help new users.
So, we actually did a test. I mentioned this before, where on our welcome islands, we put personnel that would welcome people, and we did an A/B test to test what happens when there is no greeter on the welcome island versus when there is a greeter. And the test found that there was no advantage to having greeters. It didn't make sense to us, but the data was clear. So now, that doesn't mean that mentors and greeters in all kinds of contexts can't have incredible value. And there's obviously many, many regions in Second Life that do a lot of work to welcome people, to help people, to mentor people, and that's absolutely great. But when we try to sort of see if we could get a better conversion rate of people coming into Second Life and attain better on our wells, did not make sense.
That's interesting.
So yeah, it's one of those, it's fascinating to do A/B tests. Sometimes what it's obviously is going to be better will surprise you and it doesn't work out. Another one of those tests we did was see what happens if people can come to a web page that they are automatically in Second Life. You know, they don't have to download a viewer. And we did that by streaming Second Life from the servers. And we let them be in Second Life for 1 hour, I think it was, before we said, okay, time's up, because we can't obviously pay for everybody's CPUs and GPUs forever in the cloud. So we gave them an hour, which we figured like the conversion of not having to download the viewer and then sign into, just make that smoother, so they can familiarize themselves with Second Life. Have to make the subscribing for cloud viewer, whatever you want to call it, that would stream it to your browser, or now download a viewer. That didn't perform better either than just basically telling people to download the viewer. We went around and around because we didn't believe the results of that, but that's what the data told us. So sometimes what seems obvious is not obvious, and one can always second guess the way we test it and did try this and try that, but we've tried lots of things that we thought would make things better, and it didn't. We've also tried lots of things that would make things better, and they did, and so we kept them. But it's impossible to bat 1,000, even when it seems absolutely obvious.
I'm wondering something here. When you ran the A/B test with and without the mentors, was that for a kind of general area, or was it for one of the new specialized areas?
Yeah, this was done quite a while ago, so it was the general welcome island. So yeah, maybe it does make a difference if it's sort of you know, to have a vampire greeter on the vampire welcome island, maybe that would make a difference, and maybe it's worth testing something like that in the future. But a generic greeter on a generic welcome island, not that test was from way over a couple of years ago or something. Since then, we've improved the welcome island and the learning island, and you know, a lot since then, and which have actually had positive impact. And but yeah, it's you get to a point where you have to validate things with data, because if you just go based on gut, you'll be wrong sometimes.
I'd certainly be interested to see if it changed once you have the more specialized areas.
Yeah, I think even those are being tested. How do the specialized areas perform versus the generic ones? And I don't know that we have one out there yet, but it's probably too early too, in that we don't have enough data to have it be statistically relevant just yet. So I'm still waiting to hear some outcomes from those tests. But last I heard, it wasn't obvious that they were winning either. So it's, keep trying and keep trying.
Okay. I was going to ask you, actually, no, there's another question that people have been asking about net neutrality and how that could affect Second Life.
I don't think necessarily that it has a direct impact, but I think it has a potentially indirect impact. It's probably more upstream from us that there's going to be impact with, what the cost of getting on the internet, or what cost there might be to access to certain services through certain providers, etc. That it remains to see what that will do to the cost of your internet service, or maybe what the performance of certain internet services might be. But I can't yet think of anything specific that has a direct impact on how we think about what we're doing in Second Life, other than, I'm in disagreement with removing the net neutrality stuff. So other than just being upset and shouting, there's nothing that directly impacts us.
Right. Someone was asking me what the turnaround time is to resolve abuse reports.
Oh, goodness.
Possibly a patch question.
Yeah, it's probably more of a patch question, so it might be a good question for people in tomorrow, like Grumpy or Patch. Or probably Patch would be the best person to speak to it. And I bet there's not a simple answer, because some of them are very obvious and easy to resolve, and some of them require a lot of research, because not all abuse reports are easy to understand what actually happened, who is in the right, who is in the wrong, what actions should be taken based on that. So it's probably a lot of a gray area. Again, this is an area that's really difficult, because what looks obvious to one person is not necessarily obvious to us, and so it's not always that everybody can get exactly what they want. Anyone that's annoying me should just disappear. Well, it's not how the world works.
Yeah.
Some people have, not enough tolerance. So just what degree of annoying or whatever should be really abuse, it's not always obvious. And we don't necessarily have all the data and the records to know, because it oftentimes turns into a he said, she said kind of situation, and it's sometimes impossible for us to mediate some of those situations clarity. So, but there's probably statistics on exactly what the average and the median, the long and the short of those types of reports are. I do not have them at my disposal. So
I can see that it could be very complex, but Patch has shouted that most can be handled on the same day, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can't always be fully transparent on what our actions are. Sometimes people want to know exactly what we did about things, and that's not always the case that we can, reveal that type of information. So even though we take action, sometimes people might still not be fully satisfied by completely understanding what the resolution may or may not have been. So, yeah.
Okay. A question I had was, there's a perception that the larger tech companies tend to be white and male. I imagine this is less true of Second Life, but do you have a conscious effort to create a more diverse workforce?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually have a very diverse group of people, and but we still don't feel that it's diverse enough. So even though we're proud of our diversity and our acceptance of everybody, regardless of race, sex, gender, preference, whatever it might be, we just want to get the right people regardless of their background or anything really. And so we're fortunate to have quite a diverse group of people, and but it's something that you can't just assume will just happen automatically. So you have to work at it and want it. And I see it as a strength, and I think also with the type of products that we make, it's an even more important strength, because we support so many different types of users, so many different reasons. So having a lot of different voices, points of view, and ways of looking at things is a real important asset. So it's a danger to having too much of a similar way of thinking or voices in our heads that could be a big danger. And so diversity in Second Life and this diversity in Linden Lab, I think, are incredible assets. So yes, proud, but still always can do better. And
Yeah. I've got a quick land question. Will it ever be possible for premium members to buy a homestead without having to own a full region?
That would be a question for Patch as well, or Grumpety, as to whether that's something to be considered. I wouldn't know on top of my head whether that's something we would consider.
Okay, I'll ask Grumpety tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or Angel Rose, who asked that question, could come back and ask Grumpety tomorrow. Yeah. Same time, same place, different people, apart from me. Okay, another question. Have you made a change to support policy? This is from Sarah91 Tremor. She said that the last time her region went offline, on Memorial Day, she had to wait 20 hours until tech support could put the region back online. She said after a bit of investigating, I heard it's a new Linden Lab strategy to have zero support on bank holidays. I don't know about that. Are you kind of cutting back?
Yeah, it's
supporting back
also a
these days?
question. Also a question for Patch, but
Okay.
yeah, the cost of 24/7 globally. You know, we want to try and find ways to not having to do that, and so it's a bit of a cost management, and also, you know, how many incidents actually happen on those days that it's worth having full staff ready. And sometimes, even if some of those things happen, it might be something technical. Now you need, you know, to get you know, engineers on the line. So
Yeah.
if you know, but discussing that balance of how much support at what price is a great question or conversation to have with Patch.
Right. So maybe it's something that Sarah could discuss with Patch.
Yeah, and I'm terribly sorry that she had to, you know, wait that long to get things back up again. And maybe there are things we can do over time to have better tools to allow her to restart her region from afar, from home, from the web, something to you know, solve the problem by itself. And so yeah.
Patch is saying that that was actually highly unusual because they do have someone on even on holidays.
Okay. So we need to look at that specific case as to whether that was just technically complicated or was it even a staffing issue.
Okay, yeah, Patch is on to that, I think.
Worfy wants to know about the Sweden-Germany game on Saturday.
Yes! I love the fact that the one you've honed in on chat is the football one.
Yeah.
Who are you backing?
I'm glad Sweden squeezed through Korea the other day, and Germany will also be a much tougher match, but you know, Germany's defense looked a bit weak the other day, so maybe we have a chance, but it'll be tough.
Didn't they get unexpectedly beaten by someone? Germany already.
Did they lose or did they tie? I think didn't they?
Possibly they tied. Sarah, who is clearly German.
We
shouting,
lost. Oh yeah,
lost
1-0 to Mexico. I saw that game. Mexico played great. Yeah. So, yeah, Germans are not going to be angry. That doesn't help. Yeah, no, it's a super tough group. We won the one that we really had to win, and now both Mexico and Germany is going to be tough. So, but I'll be there in front of the TV on Saturday, rooting the best I can. And yeah, it's a big bummer that. Yeah, Netherlands and Italy. Yeah, that was tough because obviously I'm half Dutch, half Sweden, so I root for both. To have Sweden, you know, partake in Netherlands not making it, but they kind of sunk themselves. Netherlands had a really shitty couple of years, national team-wise. Beating out Italy was beautiful, though.
Okay. Right. Okay, I'm going to pick up on another question here. These are some questions I had in advance. There could be a perception that Block's World is aimed at younger viewers, kids, teenagers. Second Life at older users, and Sunsar at those in between. Each demographic would offer different things. I know from conversations we've had before that you prefer to see all three being open to everyone. But are you finding that there is this kind of demographic split?
Yeah, I mean, every product tend to, you know, whether it's by choice of the product or you know, how things work out, you end up having some sort of a match between your product and your demographic, and you try to steer towards a particular demographic, so you do work that's relevant for that particular demographic. clearly Bloxworld was targeted to a much younger demographic. But we also found that some of the, really hardcore users in Bloxworld they created really successful content were, in their 30s. So it's not like there were just kids there. But far and by way, the demographic histogram, if you will, skewed way younger than certainly Second Life, Sansar. With Sansar, yes, we're trying to be interesting to a younger demographic than Second Life currently is skewed towards, but that is not to be exclusive in any particular demographic. It's just kind of what it is. I would prefer something that is, again, more similar to the physical world we live in, where you have young, old, and everyone in between sort of sharing a world together and interact with each other in safe ways. Now, there's some subject matter in Second Life that appropriate, and so how do you then protect them from getting access to that content? Not easy to do. So you then have to set some minimum age that unfortunately is higher than you would want it to be, but safe as well. So with Sansar, we're trying to start out with a lower minimum age than Second Life. If it's 13 instead of 18, which also means in Sansar we currently have no plans for any type of more adult content. So these are all trade-offs, and it's really hard to be everything to everybody. You have to be ultimately. Someday it's really important to be something to somebody, and very few products have actually met the needs of everybody. Even Facebook with 2 billion users are not necessarily appealing to all demographics. So I think your assessment is about right. And Bloxworld has also been an interesting exercise for us to play with mobile devices, phones and pads, rather than PCs. Sort of get a sense for what does it mean to create user interfaces where you can content, share content, and interact on those types of devices. There's been some good learning experiences there. But in general, there's a thread through everything, which is enable and empower people to create content and share it with other people, and ideally be able to have fascinating social interaction with that content, and also make it possible for people to earn from the work they do.
Couple more questions coming in. TJ Lush wonders if there are any plans for a mobile app or viewer, as it would be an excellent tool for business owners to provide support for customers without being at their PC.
Yeah, so we have actually a lot of conversations around this, and it'd be also a great thing to talk to Grumpity and Oz about tomorrow. If Grumpity can speak, she's actually had real laryngitis. And had no voice for a few days, so she might sound funny tomorrow if she can make it. So we discussed this a lot. We're working on sort of figuring out what the right approach to that would be. You can think of it as that. So, because we're open source, there are actually mobile viewers on the market today. There's a popular Android viewer. There's a number of iOS ones. Some of them are more companions that allows you to sort of chat and stuff. Some of them even have actual viewers, so you can bop along in regions. And so we are, very much investigating the right approach to invest in making the right investment for mobile. You do have a companion case, like you said, for merchants to manage business, for users to shopping, to chatting, and to staying connected to their groups, to be informed about upcoming events, all the way to actually being in world and cruising around in 3D space. And which of those, and then even the 3D, if you wanted to do a full 3D viewer, then the question is, should it be running the engine on the local device? Then you have some constraints as far as performance on those devices. Should it be streamed from the server? Well, then it has to be paid for, because that cost us a bunch of money. So then it has to be part of some sort of subscription plan to get this kind of viewer. So we're trying to figure out which of these, what our approach should be to this opportunity. We're also discussing how much of this is really to help current users better engage with Second Life on an ongoing basis, or could it be really used to acquire new users that are purely mobile? Could Second Life actually be experience, because mobile apps tend to quite different from desktop apps in sort of complexity and what you can do. Can you make Second Life great mobile experience? Those are all discussions, and I'm optimistic that we're going to choose some path and deliver something, but we haven't decided exactly what yet. So,
Okay.
Great topic to talk to Oz and Grumpy about tomorrow to help us figure out the right path to take.
Okay, I was perhaps related to that. Someone was asking if you would be trying out the idea of a web viewer again, and someone reminded us of the old SL Go viewer.
Yes, yeah. So we have some information and knowledge about the SL Go experience, and we also have some experience with actually doing through a third party kind of our own version of this. When I described that test we did where users could actually start in a streamed version of the viewer, which was kind of similar to what SL Go let people do. Because we didn't see a bump in conversion, we decided to not continue to invest in that project at that time. And it's again the same question of, is this a way to get new users or be an advantage for basically currently existing engaged users? So, but we're back really thinking hard about mobile. We'll figure out some plan and strategy to tackle that. Vulcan Viper here makes a good point. Like if SL Go felt like a regular viewer that just had a different interface slapped on it, not good. So when you think mobile, you start to thinking like if you wanted to feel like a really mobile experience from beginning to end, you start to really sort of think about potentially a very different user experience, and then you have to think about how that's quite a bit of an effort to not just port Second Life as we know it, but to really create sort of a true native feeling mobile experience. That's quite an investment to make. So, and how much you value that, again, depends on how much you think it's only benefiting existing Second Life users versus also potentially be a huge opportunity to acquire completely new users that would never have a PC and would only use Second Life in a mobile form factor. Is Second Life the right kind of product to have a sort of a mobile-only audience for? Is I think a good question.
It could be quite interesting to run like a test game experience on an individual sim. Region, she says, conscious that Patch is here.
Yeah, sure, but it has to ultimately be more than that, because if you just wanted to create one game,
Mm.
then you're probably better off just using, Unity and just go build that game, right?
Yeah.
Second Life kind of the value of Second Life that is that it's much more than just a game on a region, um, and so can we deliver the sort of what is kind of the real value of Second Life through a mobile form factor? I think is a question.
Mm-hmm. The Benny Springflower has asked a question that he's heard rumours that regions on which no avatars are on will be switched offline for that time. Presumably once we move over to the cloud. If that is true, what's going to happen to things like breedables? I know that you spin down regions on Sansar if no one's present. Is that planned at all for Second Life?
No, that's not planned at all. Being able to have regions that can be spun down if there's no visitors on the region may become a potential feature that might have, create a lower cost region maybe. Once we've moved everything to the cloud, then that could be something to explore. But we certainly have no plan to suddenly start shutting down regions, because currently Second Life has the expectation of running 24/7, and that's what you're paying for, so that's what you expect to get. So that's suddenly going to pull that away. Again, sometime next year, when we've made the transition to the cloud, we could entertain maybe having features like, call it on-demand regions or something like that, and how that gets priced, and that whether we even prioritize a feature like that is completely undecided yet.
I have a couple of questions. Someone is saying, could there possibly be any changes about agent limits on regions, especially homesteads that can only welcome 20 people? I know the patch yesterday did say there was a possibility that agent limits could be raised. We didn't talk about homesteads, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's in all of our interest to continuously increase the concurrency that you can have on land. As we improve performance, infrastructure, server performance, and we can move those limits up, then we should move them up. That's just a matter of finding the right sort of performance, quality, and concurrency trade-offs. But yeah, everybody wants more concurrency if it's possible. So it's just a matter of when can we technically actually deliver that. And that might, again, once we move to the cloud, there's a lot of different types of servers with very different capacity and also different costs that allow for different types of models. Maybe it's not just one price for a private estate. Maybe there's different classes that runs on differently performant servers with different CPU capacity or whatever it might be, so that people could maybe get like the one that can support 200 people or 100 people or whatever. Those were random numbers. I don't know what they're just. Maybe that's an option we'll get in, or before then even come up with performance improvements that allows us to increase. See, that's possible. I think this is something that we're going to try and achieve from here on till the end of time. So
Yes. Someone has said that they're wondering if you're aware that land in private or real estate sales is reaching mad prices, and that you're not actually making a cent on that, because what he said is that it's mostly staying vacant, so no tier payment, and it's Linden Lab land, not private. I was thinking that actually if it's Linden land selling at high prices, it's presumably been bought by someone who's passing on the sales.
I don't follow the question completely.
No, I think the point, I think he's thinking that if he sees mainland unoccupied with a high price on it, that he's thinking that Linden Lab are putting the price on, but it will be owned by an agency. Someone will have bought it and charging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's just supply and demand. I mean, so if someone is, the value of land is a large degree sort of supply and demand. If you have a great piece of property and a great place, it'll be worth more than another piece of property somewhere else. And maybe sometimes an agent is overly optimistic about what they can sell for, and so then that's kind of their problem to sit on that inventory for too long before they can make the sale. It's like any real estate market.
Someone has just raised the question of flexible region size. We've talked about that last night with Patch, and Patch explained to us that in order to do that, you would really need to retool the whole grid, and it could be quite difficult to do. To have flexible land size.
Yeah, to have arbitrarily sized.
Well, yeah.
Or
rather than just 256 by 256.
Yeah, I mean, the one area that I know that there's been some sort of technical investigation into is if it's possible to make bigger pieces. Whether it's 500 by 500 or 1,000 by 1,000 or something like that. But there are all kinds of legacy sort of in the system that makes lots of assumptions about the sizes of these things, and so I have no guarantees that we're going to provide new sizes or new pricing models for land or having flexible land. So, but again, it's a great question for Grumpy and Patch. They would be more experts at what may or may not be possible in this area.
Okay. Yes, Patch says that the map is the foundation. It would have to be rethought and overhauled. It would be a very major undertaking.
Yeah, like there's a lot of built-in assumptions on sort of the on everything. So yeah, you would have it would. You start to peel that onion and you realize that it just keeps going and going. It's not something simple. And we also don't know what the demand would be or how useful it would be. So yeah.
Okay, I know we're coming towards the end now, and I'd like to ask a final question about the community gateways and how they can play a role in bringing new people into Second Life, as well as making sure that the initial experiences are so good that the new people stay. I think they're doing a great job doing that internally, so that when people get here, they're getting a really great experience through community gateways. But I think you also see community gateways as a ways of attracting more people into Second Life, so a sort of external role. And I'm wondering how people could do that. I think a lot of the community gateways are quite focused on the internal experience than having an external lure. Is there a way that the lab and residents could work together on that to kind of make the external lure stronger?
Yeah, I mean, we do provide these so that subject matter that we don't have time to focus on, and it could be because of geography, because of language, because of subject matter, because of all kinds of things. It's impossible for us to market to all audiences about all things that are ever possible in Second Life. So empowering people to create communities or experiences or that are targeted for a particular purpose and a particular audience, and then be able to go out into, you know, the internet, if you will, and the world, outside world, and try and attract that audience is kind of the idea behind this. Now, that means you are not just building an experience and operating it internally, but also means going out and doing marketing and partnerships and whatever it might be to sort of bring an audience through this gateway experience, which for some people is a really different type of business, maybe a different type of skill set. Oftentimes, to acquire an audience, it might be money involved to actually acquire that audience. But we've had success with some partners that have in the past that have had that muscle, so to speak, to actually be able to expose a gateway to a meaningful sized audience that find that experience relevant. But the area we might be able to help, and it's something to think about, is if there's some sort of incentive program we can support that helps, where we pay for acquired customers in some way, right? Because we go out and buy customers on all kinds of different networks, and there's a team here that focuses on advertising across all kinds of different networks and paying attention to what the cost of acquisition across different networks are and what the value of the customers we acquire through those different networks are. This is another channel that would be in collaboration with our users to bring, where they put in the effort of doing the user acquisition. So what would we be willing to pay for those users if successfully acquire them? That could be, we're willing to pay Google for users. Why wouldn't we pay our residents if they can acquire users? That seems logical. So maybe that's an area where you can help. But again, that would be a great conversation to have with Rumpety and Patch as well, and
Brett. I'm talking to Brett.
Yeah, and Brett. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe there's something we can do there. Now, we would still, do a program like that. We would feel that it's worth building a program like that because it's going to be enough volume that it's. We don't want to go build a program and put a bunch of technology and then pay for 12 acquired users. It has to be some sort of volume we can sense, and so. But it might also encourage new types of partners to come on board, sort of have the ability to do that at meaningful scale. So, yeah, but that's kind of why we, that's kind of why we put the Community Gateway program in place, is to allow people to acquire users across a huge diversity of content, subject matter, language, whatever it might be, that it is just impossible for us. I mean, for us, it's a little bit like we're doing the marketing to acquire people to come to a country, right?
Yes.
But we can't do necessarily the marketing all the way down to like, come check out this particular event or experience, or there's just too much and too varied, and we have to rely on you all to do a lot of that work. And whether that's through just slurls, experience pages, gateways, like these are all ways we're trying to think of making it possible for everybody to attract an audience into their content. Like, there's a lot of experience in Second Life that the creators of those experiences have a very clear understanding of what type of audience they're relevant to and where that audience might exist out in the world to come to their experience. And I want to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for people get their own audience to come in, not just expect us to, once that's successful, will push an audience to you. It's kind of have to be, we'll push a fairly generic audience and can't be necessarily specific enough every type of experience that you have in Second Life.
It could be very cool. Yes, I would be really interested in talking more about that. Unfortunately, Ebbe, it's now 3:30, and I think that's your hard stop, isn't it?
Well, let me check. As usual, I try to have a little buffer on the other side of these. I have 10 more minutes if people want to listen to me for longer.
Okay, there seems to be an indication that they do. I had a couple more questions coming in. What about allowing creators to make apps that interact with your character like a HUD on your phone? To me, that sounds very much like experience tools.
I'm not sure I completely follow. What am I doing on my phone here?
I don't really have HUDs on my phone.
Well,
but experience tools do give apps that interact with my character.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Good.
Okay.
Good question for Grumpity, who's
Yes,
really
that's
thinking hard about mobile, and whether that's a core use case for mobile.
Someone was asking if there could be a better impact if the lab did advertising campaigns like they did in the beginning, because a lot of people have never heard of Second Life.
Whether we could do better advertising campaigns than like we did in the beginning. Well, the beginning and where we are now is apples and oranges. In the beginning of Second Life, the whole idea and the concept of something like this was completely new, right? So it just an idea was sufficient inspiration for a lot of people to come. Today, the world is like way more competitive, I guess is one word you could say, where there's so many options for people to spend time in Minecraft or Roblox or a billion types of games and worlds and creation tools, and so today it has to be more precision rather than just sort of being able to speak necessarily kind of out of an idea or a concept that was possible back then. So we actually have a very sophisticated customer acquisition sort of process, tool chain, people that know a lot about customer acquisition. And we're always open to ideas and Brett in particular on if there are certain type of messages that you think would be interesting to try out, because we try a lot of different, and most of you never see a fraction of these, testing different messages and different ways to try and attract audiences around the world. So but that's a great conversation to have with Brett. If there are different or better ways to try and market and acquire users.
Okay, I've had a clarification on that HUD question from the Eschaton, and I think it's a very grumpy question or a very Oz question. The idea is, instead of seeing the HUD on your SL viewer, you see it on your phone and it frees up screen space, which sounds very complicated to me.
Oh, so I'm on my PC, but I have my HUD on my phone?
Yeah, that.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. That takes me for a little bit of a technological mind warp.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how many users would take advantage of that. So I'm suspicious that we would not invest energy on that use case, particularly. We'll probably better off investing in a larger monitor.
However, would there ever be a way to pull, for example, I've got 2 screens and I just run Second Life in its entirety on one. Would there be any way of actually moving the HUDs over to my other screen? In other words, making them float freely?
Yeah. I mean, that again would be a question for Grumpy and Oz as to how easy would it is for viewers to be able to sort of have windows, various windows in our application to sort of span multiple monitors. I'm not sure what functionality we do or do not have there and what it would take. So that, and again, kind of get down to a bit of an edge case here because most people do monitors. So even this functionality necessarily impact a lot of people, but I know it's technically doable. It's just now it's a matter of priority whether we decide to do it. I've seen Sansar, for example, across I think it was 6 or 7 screens. It was quite majestic.
Wow.
Yeah, that was during the Intel keynote. The CEO of Intel showed Sansar on stage at the CES across a screen that was from one end to the other end of this huge theater. So it was quite
wow.
unbelievable. Never seen. I'll probably never see Sansar at that scale again.
Someone said that Jessica Lyon appeared to demonstrate that in one of her videos. I remember that, Vulcan. It was an April Fool's.
Oh, it's just
a lot
screenshotted.
Of people got very excited.
Cheat trick. Yeah. No, an open source viewer might be able to do it. I don't know if it would require anything for us to do it. So if Firestorm wanted to give that a shot, like maybe they could do it. Not sure. Again, good question for Grumpy and Oz tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll ask them about that tomorrow. Okay. I'm just checking if there are any questions that I've missed that people would really like. Yes, a question from Ravenna de Coeur. Sorry to ask this. Don't be sorry at all. Are there plans to give a Linden the liaison role for adult content users?
Say that again?
Are there plans to create a Linden, to have a Linden with the role of liaison to adult content users?
A liaison. Well, we currently don't have plans for any liaisons for any verticals or subject matter. So this would again be a good question for either Patch or Brett to, what would the value of that be? And is that sort of the right kind of investment for us to have that? I know Brett is also the person to talk to about, we'll see how transparent he wants to be on some of these things, but, exploring whether we want to specifically trying to acquire users for some of the adult, that gets a little complicated. Various reasons that some of I'm sure we want to discuss, but there's, having adult content. I'm totally cool with it because I think, freedom of speech and the world certainly supports it. I can go 2 blocks here in San Francisco and take a right turn on Broadway Street, and boom, there are all kinds of adult establishments there. Why shouldn't you be able to do it in virtual world as well? But it does come with stigma. It does come with complexity with partners, whether those are, from banks to money processing companies to brands, and so it comes with a cost of supporting that type of content. Sometimes it's super frustrating. The world is like that. She was more accepting of that type of content, but hey, we live with it and we do with it, but we have to kind of find the right balance in how much more explicitly we can sort of invest in that type of content, because it does sometimes work against us.
There's a question again about support. Someone just wants to know that there'll be an ongoing liaison to work with communities like the United Sailing Sims and the Blakesea regions.
Sorry, what is the question?
Will there be Linden's continuing to work with the United Sailing Sims, communities like the United Sailing Sims and the Blakesea regions?
Well, I mean, we would.
That hasn't really changed. I can step in and answer that. That hasn't really changed. The land operations team still actually manages all of our community liaisons like that, or partnerships like that.
Right.
And, that's currently being headed up by Kira, who was with me yesterday on the show. So anybody in those communities that has any questions and stuff, that will still always go through that team, and it'll now also go through Kira going forward.
Okay. Did you say that in Second Life? Did you just say that on Skype? Okay, great.
Thanks, Patch.
Right. There was a question from Kenny Lux. Kenny Lux wanted to know if you build in prims. If you eat your dog food, I guess.
Very minutely. Yes, I've gone in. I've spent more time trying to get dressed than I probably would almost willing to admit, and goodness, it was frustrating. So, and I've dropped a few cubes and poked around a little bit, but like most people, I don't either have the skill or patience to do that. And most people in Second Life don't do that. I completely understand, the tool chain and the capabilities, and how we approach it in Second Life and how we approach it in Sansar. But I don't know that I would ever sort of either have the time or patience to build something of substance in either product. I wish I did. And I do have my own place that I've poked around and messed up and played with, but not necessarily something that I would share with the world. And You know, and I kind of liken probably the ratio of creators to consumers. You know, once you get to scale, unless you're a product that really is all about creation, and Sans or Second Life are neither all about creation, it's also about consumption, and is that you usually end up having a ratio of you know, sort of a smaller percentage of creators to a much larger percentage of consumers. In the physical world, very few of us actually make the stuff as far as building our own house or making our own clothes or building our own kitchen table or, you know, making our own car or bicycle, or like we tend to acquire all those things. And you see also in Second Life and Sansar both that incredible experiences oftentimes is created by a lot of different producers of content, and that it gets assembled by some master creator that puts it all together. But you go into a lot of Second Life experience and you start inspecting objects and you make that incredible place you're in, you realize, like, my God, they hardly made any of it. You know, they bought the flowers and the table and the rug and the lamps and the trees outside, and then a few things they may have made themselves, and sort of that mix and match of create and assemble. So I probably would be more of an assembler than a creator of original content. And I think you will see, and so that's kind of a class of user that I would refer to as like a customizer. You have creators that create original content. You have creators that assemble things. Like, I created my own home, but I didn't actually make any of the assets, really. Like the house itself or any of the things in the home. But I put it together in such a way that it feels like mine. It has my taste, and it feels it's mine. And that's the same with our identities. We choose to, haircuts we get and the clothes we wear sort of speaks a little bit about who we are and what we enjoy, but that doesn't mean I knit or sew or cut my own hair. So I kind of look at it kind of that way. So
I really should wrap up. We really should wrap up now. I have got a couple more questions, but I'm afraid that I don't think we have time. Can I squeeze in one very quick one?
Definitely.
Okay. This is from Skylar Jules, who says, over the years, the child family community has been at the centre of controversy, but it's a growing and thriving community. Many are still seen as negative in this world and feel shut out. She knows that the terms of service does state very clearly the rules about child avatars, but many are still unsure if this means they're banned from regions labelled mature and adult. She noticed that you had a child avi in the SL birthday video. Do you support child avatars, and what is the situation to being allowed in different regions, types of region?
Yeah, I do want to support avatars of all sizes, shapes, ages, forms. Where it gets complicated is that it just takes a few people that comes at that in the wrong way, right? So when you start having, and there are laws too as to what you can do and not do with regards to, and there are some people that want to cross that line. And when you suddenly start to have, sexual interaction with those kinds of avatars, that gets, that crosses the line. So and unfortunately, that can, it just takes a couple of bad people to sort of ruin entire communities, or put a massive stigma on entire communities. So, and it's, for us to figure out where that line is, when that line is being crossed, is not always easy. And so, people will get banned for crossing that line, which I think is entirely appropriate. And so that's why I think it's in a particularly it's a complicated subject matter, unfortunately. But that's because there's some people out there that they have those kinds of fantasies, and even in the physical world, people act out on those fantasies, and none of us are particularly happy when that happens. And we don't want that kind of fantasy to be played out in Second Life either. So
yeah,
that's why I think it's kind of a difficult one. But and so we could be more draconian and just not allow any avatar to be shorter than X feet or what have you, but that's not right. So how do we manage it? And again, it just takes one or two people to cross the line, and it creates a big mess.
And that's a reputation it can take years to overcome.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And then people that don't have those intentions at all then get swept up in something that doesn't even make sense to them. Why that's happening? So so be patient for those of you that do the right thing, and help us by helping you, and together hopefully we can keep it safe and fun and for everybody.
And have a strong child community.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Ebbe, I'm going to I know there are more people. We could probably go on for an hour or more. But I'm going to say thank you so much. We've now gone 3/4 of an hour longer than we were scheduled. So thank you so much for coming here and talking today and being so generous with your time and your expertise.
Thank you, Safia, and thank you everybody that came here. You guys are all great, and I hope to see many of you in World when I jump in here soon, in between all my meetings, and enjoy the celebration. 15 years is an amazing achievement, and we could not have done it without all of amazing work. So thank you. I thank all the amazing things. Keep it going, and let's keep it going for a long, long time.
So thank you, and thank you to the Lindens who've been lurking in the background, helping out, and also to Dorney and Zal, my fantastic stage managers here at the auditorium. Tomorrow I'll be talking to Grumpy and Oz, and I can see you all have lots of questions for them, so please come back. And then on Friday I'll be talking to Brett, and that will be about communication, and there are issues that have come up today that I know people want to talk about with Brett. So looking forward to seeing you all then. Thank you. And I'm killing my Second Life voice now, so goodbye everyone till tomorrow.